and welcome to the third episode of the weekly Google Cloud Platform podcast. I'm your host, Francesc and Mark, and I'm here with the other host, Mark. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good, Francesc. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
That's good. I hear you're a little bit out and about at the moment. You're traveling. I know you're not in San Francisco.
Yeah, I've been traveling for quite a bit. 10 days already, somewhere in Europe. I went to Eurodev in Sweden and then GDG DevFest in Nantes. And now I'm in Paris for .go.
Oh, sounds like a tough life. I am here in San Francisco in my living room.
Yeah, it could be worse, really.
It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. Well, it sounds like you're having lots of fun. Well, we've got a great interview lined up with one of our teammates, but why don't we talk about our cool thing of the week before we get stuck into that?
Sure. So the cool thing of the week is that we got a new Cloud Console UI, what we call the new Cloud Management Console.
Yep.
Have you got to use it a little bit?
I have. I've been using it for a little while now. I quite like it. It's very pretty. Lots of nice colors.
It's really pretty. That's true. It's really, really pretty. Every single logo has a slightly different color. I actually really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to get a chance to use it, there's a little try the beta console button that you can press and it'll switch over your console. You can always switch back. It's no commitment. It's okay. But no, it's really nice. My favorite feature, I think, actually I have two favorite features, but being able to pin things at the top. So I use App Engine a lot. So being able to just go pin App Engine so I can quickly get to it really quickly. I really like that.
And I'm going to guess the second one. Is it the search bar?
Actually, it isn't the search bar, but the search bar is awesome.
The search bar is my favorite one. So if it's not the search bar, what is it?
Okay, so I actually really like on the front page, you can customize your widgets. So you can specify the widgets on the front page that you want to see so that you can get all your up-to-date information about, say, like errors or what's the status for Google Cloud Platform or any of that sort of stuff. So you get that as a glance as you first join. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I guess we're just different people. I'm more like, I just want to find whatever I'm looking for without having to set anything up, while you're more like pinning and
that's true,
modifying and customizing. But yeah, for whatever you like doing, basically you have both, so that's fun.
One thing I do love about the search bar though is there are shortcut keys. So there's a shortcut key that takes you to the search bar, and then you can enter in, say you want to look at App Engine or whatever you want to jump to really quickly. So the combination of the shortcut keys and the search bar means you can navigate around the dashboard really, really quickly without having to touch a mouse, which is really cool.
I actually did not know that, and now all of a sudden I'm very interested. What's the shortcut? Do you even know what shortcut is?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I have to.
I'll have to find it.
Yeah,
that sounds actually really useful because I'm a Vim user. I don't like mice. English is hard.
Yep. So no, I totally love it. So that is cool. So there you go. There's 3 features that I love.
Cool. Yeah. So the pinning, the customizing, and then the search bar.
Oh, it's just / to open it up, and then you can type like App Engine or whatever you like, and hit enter. It's just / It's really nice. /
You know that's actually the key to also search in Vim, right?
Is it? Okay. I'm not a Vim user.
Yeah. So that's perfect. Okay, I'm gonna totally use that.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So we had. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say probably exactly the same thing you were. We recorded a interview earlier last week, actually, with one of our teammates, Brian Dorsey.
Yeah.
We had a great
Brian Dorsey.
The Brian Dorsey, yes. We had a great chance to chat with him about Kubernetes.
Yeah. So what do you think? Should we just start playing that interview then?
That's a great idea. Let's play that interview right now.
So we are joined today by one of our wonderful colleagues, Brian Dorsey, who is also a developer advocate for the Google Cloud Platform. We're going to have a chat today about Kubernetes and Google Container Engine. How are you doing today, Brian?
Excellent. Thanks for having me in.
Thank you very much. Now, of course, the first question I have to ask before anything we go on is it Kubernetes or Kubernetes? I argue about this all the time. I think that's probably the most important thing that we discuss before anything else.
Yeah, I think I'm going to mangle this. I think I met a Greek gentleman who said the actual Greek word is pronounced something like Kubernetes. But, it's something that was birthed on the West Coast of the United States. So we pretty much say Kubernetes.
Wonderful. Okay, so before we go on any further, why don't you give us a brief background on yourself so people know who you are if, you're not popular enough already.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm a developer advocate for Google Cloud Platform. And I've worked on a few different things, cloud storage, our compute engine, virtual machines, and lately been doing a lot of work with container engine and Kubernetes. Also, I love Python and Go. So
Good.
so that works, right?
Francis? That works. That sounds good. Francesc loves the Go as well. That's all we know.
Yeah, a little comment on the name. I just came back from GCP Next in Paris, and French people actually call it Kubernetes.
Oh,
I thought that was really cute.
I found out recently
that is awesome.
That it's also Kubernetes in Hebrew.
Ah, there you go. It's cute. I like it.
I probably mangled that as well.
We should make an international pronunciation downloadable guide or something like that. That would be hysterical.
That would be. Actually, I don't like that. That sounds really good. All right, so we should probably talk about what Kubernetes actually is and why people should care about it and why basically all three of us think it's pretty awesome. So since you're the guest on the show, Brian, why don't you take us away?
Sweet. So, I think the big picture thing is context wise, more and more people have access to, lots and lots of computers. And most software today is running across, is already a distributed system. Like you're running different processes on multiple machines, and keeping track of all this is a challenge. And so, at a very high level, Kubernetes helps you basically run your software, your processes on a whole cluster of computers, but reason about all of them as one thing, as one entity. So you can say, hey, I want to run, 5 copies of this process. Kubernetes, make that happen somewhere in the cluster. Make sure they stay running. If anything goes wrong, let me know, restart them. If one of the machine goes down, reschedule them, that sort of thing.
Cool. So that actually sounds a little bit like what we do here at Google, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, like having a lot of machines and trying to run some stuff on it. So, I heard a lot of people saying, oh yeah, Kubernetes is just the open source version of what we do here at Google, which is Borg. Is that true?
Philosophically, absolutely. So it's it's inspired by Borg, but it is a, from the ground up, actually more modern implementation of a lot of these ideas. Nice. Yeah. And in fact, there's a fantastic talk. We can add the links to the show note, by John Wilkes, talking about the relationship of Borg and what it looks like as a developer at Google to write code, and run that on our clusters. And then, what we've built with Kubernetes. So it's a fun talk, diving deep into that relationship.
Ah, that's cool.
So Kubernetes, it came from Google. I don't know that much about the history itself, but I believe Red Hat's been involved and a few other companies. Do you know more about where it was conceived and that sort of background stuff?
Absolutely. So, basically 3 very senior folks, at Google, just noticed this kind of trend of the rest of the world, kind of running into these same situations that Google had, a way of dealing with internally, and decided, to try to prototype up building a kind of an initial version of that everybody could use. And then, we actually convinced the company to release that as an open source project. So, that it runs entirely on our cloud platform, and now AWS and Azure and your own hardware, lots of other places. But it's very much taking the philosophies of how Google runs software, and releasing that as an open source project. And so it started with a few engineers at Google, and now, as you said, Red Hat's involved, CoreOS is involved, dozens actually of companies, and far more individuals from lots of other places. Actually, let's just take a look real quick at the GitHub repo, which now has 10,000 stars, 2,700 forks, 19,700 commits as of today.
There are a few people there. Just a few people.
Yeah.
A couple.
It's an extremely active open source project. And, we hit our 1.0 release earlier this summer, and heading very close to the 1.1 release now.
Cool. So from a more a down to earth point of view, like Kubernetes sounds really cool. It allows you to run stuff on machines. I know that the stuff itself, it's basically Docker containers, right?
Right. That's the primary, container
Primarily,
format.
like, what other things can you run actually?
Actually, the Rocket container format that's kind of from CoreOS was supported, and then they've been moving like towards consolidating on. So both Docker and Rocket and other folks are kind of moving to kind of standardizing some container formats. So Kubernetes is intended to run multiple container formats, but definitely primarily what people are running is Docker containers.
Cool. So then we're running containers, mainly Docker, but not necessarily. And Kubernetes allows us to just manage them. What does that even mean? Like, what do you do with Kubernetes?
And what does that look like from
day-to-day
like a developer and operations perspective, right?
Yeah.
So the container gives us a kind of hermetically sealed, container, a little box for our processes. So just starting there, like it's kind of amazing because you have a process that every time it starts, it has the same context, right? It always sees the same file system, and that gets us all kinds of great benefits. And one of those is you can run that same package on different computers and get the same result, right? Which is a huge pain in normally. And then what Kubernetes really brings in is it keeps track of all these things and it helps them find each other. And at a very high level, it lets you talk about your whole cluster declaratively. So when you're actually using Kubernetes, you write a config, usually in YAML, can also be JSON, and you say, okay, I've got this container that has the version of the software I want to run. I would like you to run 5 or 8 copies of this somewhere in the cluster. And I want to make sure that they stay running and, go. And then you kind of push that declaration off to Kubernetes. And then from then on, it's Kubernetes' job to make sure that requested state stays true, right? So if one of those containers dies, it'll restart it. If one of the hosts goes away, it will actually, start up new ones somewhere else. And so that lets you, in a very real sense, sleep more, because the system is maintaining the way you asked it to be set up instead of just kind of a one-time, hey, run these things. And then you have to manually somehow figure out how to, or, through automation, make sure that they're running. Kubernetes takes care of that.
I think that's two things you kind of said that really resonate with me, and something I really like about Kubernetes and kind of this ecosystem is one of which is you've got this Docker format that's kind of ubiquitous, and I think that's incredibly powerful. And when you said earlier you were talking about coming from Borg to Kubernetes, they're able to look at it and say, okay, these are common things that people are doing in terms of scale, in terms of managing computers, clusters, stuff like that. And putting those two things together, it doesn't matter what that application inside that Docker container looks like. It can be as unique an individual snowflake as, you make, inside your own little workspace. But then once you sort of wrap that up, it can just become this ubiquitous format that you can do standard things with. And you're no longer going, I need a scaling solution for Ruby, or I need a scaling solution for Node, or I need a scaling solution for my particular app that's very unique and special. You can take advantage of these pretty awesome tools, which I think is super, super powerful.
Exactly. And if your dev workflow, so like you've got developers, working, and then you've got testers, actually testing and making sure that things work, maybe the same folks, and then operations folks, like no matter which pieces of software the different containers use, you can use the same process across all of those. Really we all want to kind of choose the best tool for the job, or different teams, in a real service-oriented architecture, might choose to use different tools, and this lets you manage them all, and that's kind of one of the fundamental benefits of Docker and containerization.
Yeah, one of the things that I really like about Kubernetes is the fact that what you were saying, this concept of desired state, where basically rather than having to handle like, oh, this machine went down, let me go and restart this job somewhere else. That's going to be automated directly, and that's cool. But something which I think is even cooler, and I've seen some demos of it, but I think you could explain a little bit more what it is. It's this concept of rolling updates.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I've seen that at Google, but I have never seen that outside of Google.
It's super powerful. So we've got desired state, right? And when we first set up the thing, I told it, I want 5 web front ends, right? But that number you can change that over time. So you can think of it as like there's a dial, like a volume knob, on your processes. You can like, well, let's turn that up to 11. And, you get all the processes running, right? And so you can kind of turn it up and down there. So that just gets you your scaling right away. So you just tell Kubernetes, oh, I want 8 now and I want 3 now. And then the rolling update. So as you have new versions of your software, you can basically say, okay, I'm going to create a new definition for this new version. And Kubernetes, I want you to slowly start adding more of these, and I'll watch the logs. And as long as everything's going well, we'll just slowly replace the old ones with the new ones. And then we'll have a new version in production. And so that's pretty powerful. But since these containers are hermetically sealed, I think that, they're isolated. They're this one thing. So you can do this atomic upgrade, right? Where you just, replace the previous version with the new one. But the crazy thing is a rollback is actually the exact same process. So going to a previous version is the same, right? And that blows my mind.
I love this, especially as someone I've hand rolled stuff behind a load balancer just because I haven't either had the time or the inclination or the pain point to actually go and automate this stuff. So being able to just go, oh, well, this thing gives me a way to rolling update behind a load balancer or whatever's in front of, that's super powerful. Again, a generic solution for a problem that we've all encountered one way or another.
So let's dive on generic solution a bit. So we talked about kind of like running these processes. So that's basically like a system D or a process manager, kind of thing, right? But across a whole bunch of machines. But you also have to figure out where these things are. So if you want to connect them up to a load balancer, like you mentioned, you have to do that connection somehow. You have to tell the load balancer. So Kubernetes handles that as well. So as you make this definition, you also make this definition just called a service, and that Kubernetes is aware of where these things are actually running and handles the plumbing for connecting the load balancer to it. And that also gives you this nice static name, which is also a DNS name and an IP address. So you can have each of the different parts of your system have a static name, but the actual, where those things exist, that changes over time. So it might be running here, it might be running there, and your software doesn't have to care. You've got a known location to talk to your cache, a known location to talk to your database, known location to talk to web front ends. And Kubernetes just kind of handles all that. And then, you can plumb logging through and all kinds of other fun stuff. So,
yeah, I guess that's the difference between schedulers and Kubernetes, right? Like Kubernetes is not just scheduling containers. It's actually a little bit more than that, because there's service, service is basically service discovery.
Yes.
So you get that already inside of Kubernetes. You don't need to add another layer on top.
So to take a step back for those not familiar with the term scheduling, do you want to explain what that is?
So basically scheduling could be, I want to run five copies of this and then just run them. If one of the machines goes down, then just move that container somewhere else. But then I want to be able to say, it's like, I'm going to send a request. Those requests should be handled by one of those 5 containers that are running.
Yep.
Well, if they keep on moving, how do I target them? So a service is basically just a way of saying, just send it to this service. And Kubernetes just will find whoever is behind that service.
So it intelligently routes through
and what I really like is the fact that the way you define it is via a very simple concept, which is tags. And that's so beautiful. It's basically just tag stuff saying, this is a backend, or this is a front end, or this is something for test. And then you can create services saying, target all the front end that are also test, or things like that, which is really simple, but at the same time, it's so powerful that it's really, really nice to use.
And those are key part of the rolling update, and helps you do kind of, people who do kind of red-black, upgrades and that sort of thing. You also kind of mentioned, another part of scheduling is, making sure that, you put the new processes in a place where they're going to be successful, right? You put them on a machine that's not too busy, that has enough memory, and that works. And so, Mandy Waite on our team describes that as, you're kind of playing Tetris with your resources, right? You've got these oddly shaped combinations of CPU and memory and disk requirements. And then they need to fit in these certain size boxes that are the actual nodes you're running the software on. And you want to maximize that because that's the most efficient. It's going to save you the most money. And it quickly becomes this, kind of multi-dimensional complex, game of Tetris. And
I really like that comparison with Tetris. I don't know if you've seen Kelsey Hightower gave a really good talk talking about Kubernetes and at HashiConf. And he actually played Tetris in front of everybody during his talk. That was really good, yeah.
That is super fantastic.
Just to bring home the same point of, yeah, like it's hard to do, but it's automated.
Well, I think we actually had a CloudSpin win. So if people have ever seen our CloudSpin demo, we were running it on virtual machines for a long time to our video processing, and we shifted it to Kubernetes, and I think we got something like a 3 times less resource usage. It was something to that effect.
Yeah. I mean, when I created the demo, basically it was like, I just need to get it working. So I did something that I'm sure most of us have done before, which is I'm running 1 container per machine.
Yep.
And if the machine goes down, just restart it. That's it. So that's easy. But yeah, we're spending a serious amount of money because, it's like you're using 1 machine per container, which is really not what you want to do. And with Kubernetes, basically we ended up with just 3 hosts and all these containers, same amount of containers. So same performance that we used to have, but automated over only 3 instances.
Nice.
And that was really, really nice and really easy to do. So yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay. So, I guess we should probably start talking about like Google Container Engine.
Oh, right. Google.
Yeah, Google Podcast. Container with a K.
Yeah, like we it is a Google Cloud Platform podcast.
Actually, so we should talk about that. So like people sometimes abbreviate Google Container Engine as GKE.
Yes.
So, you can think about it as kind of like Google Kubernetes Engine. In a way. And, so the main, difference there. So it's running, so Container Engine is hosted Kubernetes. So it's running the, open source Kubernetes. But we handle running the master for you. So, we, maintain that. We keep it up to date. We upgrade, the Kubernetes software itself over time. You just kind of basically handle, you can think about actually using Kubernetes at kind of 2 parts. There's one part that is, setting up the cluster itself and running Kubernetes. And then the other part is like running your software in Kubernetes. So you're kind of like, the config and setup and maintenance of the cluster itself versus actually using the cluster. And, actually internally at Google, it's 2 separate groups who usually manage those things, right? You've got the people that run all the clusters, and then you've got the application groups who actually run their software in the clusters. So this is a way of basically, letting Google run Kubernetes for you so that you can focus on your app.
So you mentioned that one of the things that Google Container Engine does is create a cluster. If you were to create your own cluster, like what do? You get like I have, I don't know, five machines in my premises.
Right.
How hard is it to get it working?
So there are a couple of things you get. So Kubernetes kind of comes, out of the cloud kind of world, right? And so there's some stuff you get, in those environments. So whether that's, on Google Cloud or on, other folks' clouds, you get dynamic like creation and removal of machines. You get APIs for controlling networks. And those are actually kind of the 2 main benefits, that are a little more, that are kind of contrasting to running on your own machines. So the network in particular can be a little bit of a challenge right now, when you're setting up your own stuff. One of the things Kubernetes does is it gives, every pod, so every collection of containers has its own IP address. And so that's really helps simplify the scheduling because you don't have to ever deal with port conflicts or whatever. If, 2 different things are listening on port 80, they're trying to be web servers, you can still schedule them on the same machine, because they get their own IP address. In turn, though, that means that Kubernetes itself needs to have some control over the network. That's not super common, in people's, physical, data centers a lot of times. So, people often run an overlay network like Flannel or, kind of change the way the load balancing and the networking works a little bit, to do that. So that's usually kind of probably the main challenge. Other than that, it's a Go program and, we've got setup guides for a whole bunch of different, environments up on kubernetes.io.
So there's some guides on everything. You have to install some software and make sure that the machines are well connected and all the networking stuff, which is really hard for me to do. I'm not a networking guy. You have to set that up. With GKE, Google Container Engine, how long does it take to create a cluster?
About 5 minutes, so, and most
Nice.
of that's just, machines starting up and scripts running and that sort of thing. So, it's about a minute of your time. So you kind of log into the Cloud Console, go over to navigate your way down the sidebar to containers and, give it a name, how many nodes you want to have in it, what size, computers those nodes are, how many processors they have, and hit go.
And you're ready to run your containers in there. That's nice.
Yeah.
It is,
so
the only way I've ever fired up a Kubernetes cluster. I've never tried to manually do it yet.
Yeah, so
brave.
on that note, no matter where you're planning on running Kubernetes long term, and I think one of the big advantages of Kubernetes is that, it gives you some consistency to environment for running your software. So you can run it in multiple different cloud providers. You can run it on your own machines. You can run it on your laptop. So you can run the same system in a lot of different places. But if you're kind of trying to decide whether or not this is something you even want to spend the time on, doing your first experiments in Google Container Engine is just so much easier to tell whether you even care about Kubernetes, whether you want to spend the time to set it up on your own stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd highly recommend that, no matter where you plan on deploying.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've seen more than a few people do that. And yeah, one of the lovely things about Kubernetes is that you can pick it up and move it, which is great. So, well, we would love for you to stay on Google Cloud Platform. We understand that people have needs. That's fair enough. But it's just such an easy process to get 3 or 4 nodes spun up and start deploying things and get playing with it. It's great.
Yeah, and for me, one of the things that I really like is Kubernetes is something that I really like to play with. I know that there's some people that are already using it in production. For our demo, the Google Cloud Spin, we're using it in production, which is cool. But for me right now, it's just I'm learning the concepts and playing with it. And the good thing is that, the pricing, for Kubernetes, if you just want, not for Kubernetes, sorry, for Container Engine, up to 5 hosts, which is a decent amount of hosts already, is 0. So you don't pay anything. So basically, if you want to play with it, you can create your cluster quite easily, get your machines running, and then start playing with it.
So
not paying anything.
I'll add a little bit there. You don't pay anything for Container Engine itself. You do still pay for the virtual machines that you're running.
Yeah, which might be running. Yeah, then you get to choose how big or small your machines you want, like we discussed in previous podcast, previous episode. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so you can choose really small machines and make that very, very low cost.
If you combine that with our free trial or something like that, then it definitely gives you enough time to play with it.
Yeah, it's lots of fun, really.
Or you could fire up 32 core, nodes and run 10 of them.
532 core, and you end up with 170 cores.
Something.
That's a decent amount of cores, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Why not? That'd be fun.
Let's play.
That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, so that sounds pretty cool. I'm definitely sold. Not that I wasn't before, of course, for Google Container Engine. There's a roadmap. I had a look at it. It looked like they're slating for a 1.1 release in late October. I can't remember off the top of my head what features were coming. Brian, I'm guessing you're closer to those. Are there any particular things that you're looking forward to? You think you're going to be particularly exciting for people?
Absolutely. There's a bunch of stuff coming. It looks like early November kind of timeline for the 1.1 release. That's early November 2015, depending on when you're listening to this.
It's
it's not too far away.
Very, very soon.
So they are continuing work on kind of just straight up scalability. So the 1.0 release, they were kind of guaranteeing that everything would work really well up to 100 host nodes, and they're kind of pushing that up to around 250 plus. Lots of people are running larger, but they're kind of conservatively. We've tested everything. All the corner cases are happy. At this size and above, so they're kind of pushing there. Improving, network performance in a few places, support for later, newer Docker releases, the 1.8x series of things, some schema validation, new APIs and things like that. A couple things I wanted to call out in particular is kind of there's a hook that you can basically set up an HTTP listener or run a script right before a pod is shut down. So sometimes nice. your code, Kubernetes decides that, you need to get off this host. And so that if it's a planned event, you'll get a hook so that you can kind of
so you can
gracefully
save some stuff to disk or whatever you need
Clean
to
up,
do.
yeah, no,
That's nice.
So that's super nice. There's a new job object coming. So this is going to be the building blocks for more batch operations. So right now
Nice.
Kubernetes is kind of focused on long running processes. The job object like really brings in. You could always run a single container, a single pod to completion. Just say I want to run this and make it happy. And it's Kubernetes has always been able to do that. But the job object allows you to manage a large number of jobs that you might want to only run a subset at a time to completion. So, you can set up, queue workers, you can set up, if you want to run, 1,000 instances of something, but you only have room to run 25 of them at a time, you can use this to manage that sort of thing.
Can you do like cron type things where you want to do something like once every hour or something like that?
So I'm not aware of a cron right now.
Okay.
That sounds more like almost like map reduce stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to do, but not enough
Fair.
resources.
That works.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can
Cool.
definitely do MapReduce kinds of things, a lot of data processing sort of things. It's definitely
that's
kind
nice.
That works.
of hitting
That
those
makes sense.
targets.
Okay.
Like cron is super easy to implement with Kubernetes, by the way, because you can basically take your config of the thing you want to do and you can run kube control and just say, create this pod, run to completion.
Nice.
That's nice, yeah.
And, just put that in a cron somewhere. And that'll do its thing. And then the other one I really want to call out is auto scaling of pods. So,
we get a lot of requests for that.
Yep. So you can basically say, I want to run no fewer than this many and no more than this many, but within that range, run enough to keep, memory or CPU targets in this general area. And then it will kind of
That's very
reschedule
nice.
up and down.
That's really cool.
So that's the big stuff coming.
Cool. Very exciting.
All right. I think we're probably coming to a close. Brian, is there anything else about Kubernetes or Container Engine you want to mention we haven't really touched on yet?
I covered a pretty good chunk. I just wanted to recommend that people check out kubernetes.io. There's a bunch of docs and good information there, and also the Kubernetes GitHub site. There's also, Kubernetes is very active on Slack, so you can get that info from kubernetes.io. So,
Okay.
Please join us, kind of play with things, see how kind of, mapping your apps to this world works. If you've, gotten woken up at night to have to restart something, definitely give Kubernetes a try.
Wonderful. And if people want to contact you directly, Brian, Twitter, email,
Yeah,
website?
Twitter, email. So I'm Brian with an I, so BrianDorsey on Twitter, and you can also email briandorsey@google.com.
Cool. We'll add all of those links that you just mentioned to the show notes. I heard something about the Kubernetes Slack, which I'm not sure if it's true or not. Is it true that they actually have one engineer all the time there, like rotating, not always the same person, but they always have someone from the team to answer questions?
So the Kubernetes team is fantastic. And, in addition to Slack and a few other things, part of being secondary on call is working on social media to kind of help, people
That's
through,
very nice.
like get through things. So I'm not going to make the guarantees like absolutely always, but that's part of the, on-call rotation. And there's just like, founders of the team, and like, there's just so many people who are just really, really engaged. And then the community is growing so large right now that, whether or not you get a Google engineer there, like there are experts in Kubernetes. They're very active and helping people out all the time.
That's very nice.
I'm really excited about how the community has, come together to really, help people solve problems and make their stuff happen. So
Very
Great.
cool. I know I'm in there. I'm pretty sure I've seen you in there as well, Brian.
I'm actually not there.
You're not there?
Yeah.
I'm very quiet. I don't really say a lot.
But yeah, so yeah, thank you so much, Brian.
I thank you guys.
And hopefully we'll interview you sometime soon about the next version with cooler things of Kubernetes. Or maybe we can interview you about something else, because you know so much stuff anyway that to be doable.
That'd be fun.
I'm happy to babble. And, we can bring some folks from the Kubernetes team. So if anybody out there has somebody specific they want to hear from, let us know and we'll bring them
Oh,
in
yeah.
too.
Definitely. And if anyone has any questions about Kubernetes, please fire them through. We always need questions of the week. So we'd love to have those on the podcast as well. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Brian. I think we'll end things there, but we appreciate you spending the time with us.
Likewise.
Thanks so much to Brian for joining us and having a chance to chat to us about Kubernetes. But we have a great question that's come in from one of our listeners, Alex Van Boxel. He's asked us, we have a lot of data in Bigquery, and he's looking to divide the data into buckets per date. He's quite aware that a table can never be too big because BigQuery is awesome. But he's wondering whether it could be too small. What is the size that is too small for BigQuery? So I think this is a really interesting question.
Yeah, that's the kind of question I'm very curious about because I didn't really know the answer.
Yeah, so we had a chat with a few people about this, and they had a few different perspectives, which I thought were quite cool. We had one of our teammates, Felipe, brought up a very interesting point that he pointed out in the documentation. He said that charges are rounded to the nearest megabyte with a minimum of 10 megabytes data processed per table. So that's something to keep in mind when doing stuff with BigQuery. So if you have tables with really small amounts of data, you're always going to get charged at a minimum of 10 megabytes per query.
Yeah, nowadays, no, I don't think that anyone actually has a table with less than 10 megs. But if you do, yeah, it's good. It's good to keep in mind.
Yeah, well, I think that could come up if people leave their data normalized and having like small, like say status tables. You know how you'd normally do that in a database and stuff like that. So you could get extra charges that way.
Yeah, yeah. So good to take care of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also asked one of the solution engineers here at Google for Work, Terrence, and what he said that indeed there was not too small, which again it's not. There's nothing too small. There's nothing too big. Like it's BigQuery. It just handles everything you want. But that his rule of thumb, it's around 100 gigabytes. So if you have less than that, it's not probably worth sharding. And over that, it starts making sense. So if you have like hundreds of megs, probably you're good. If you start having terabytes, then that's where you should definitely start sharding a little bit indeed.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And for those who aren't as familiar with BigQuery, BigQuery has some great tooling and built in for running queries across tables that have date formats in them. So you don't have to be afraid of sharding, which is nice. But it just makes it sort of a little bit better if you're
actually it may be a good idea to give a short description of what BigQuery is. It's one of my favorite Google Cloud Platform products actually.
Yep.
Because basically it allows you to do SQL-like requests. So if you know how to write SQL statements, you're good basically. But if you're gonna query terabytes of data instead of taking minutes or hours, it just takes seconds.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
No, we had a really good chat recently with some people about BigQuery and where was the right place for BigQuery. And I think that the takeaway from that was you have such large data sets that it's taking you hours to process them. BigQuery can allow you to not worry about infrastructure because we manage that for you, but take those hours and move those down into seconds, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, it's basically what we use internally at Google to query our own logs. And we do have a lot of logs. So yeah, big data, no problem with that.
Yep, definitely. And if you're interested in that stuff, go find one of our teammates, Felipe. He does amazing things with big data, especially on Reddit. He does some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
We should have him on the show.
Hofa. I was about to say that exactly. We need one extra accent.
Yeah, most definitely. So many people I want to have on the show. Okay, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So that sounds like it's pretty much we're wrapping up the episode.
Sounds good.
Do you agree with that?
I think so. I think next time we'll probably be in different places yet again, but that's okay.
I will probably be in a different country. Yeah. So I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm going to be on my way to Devox.
Nice.
So if there's anyone, in Antwerp, in Belgium, north of Brussels. So if there's anyone around there, we're going to be 5 people from our team. So that's going to be fun.
That'll be great.
And so if you're around and you want to chat about Google Cloud Platform, just send me a message and we'll be happy to get together. What about you? Any traveling plans?
Well, I have an event here in San Francisco at the end of the week. I will be at FutureStack, which I'm really excited about. Steve Wozniak is going to be keynoting there, so super excited about that. And then after that, I will be in Philadelphia for ClojureConf, which I'm also really excited about. So.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that. Actually, yeah, you're going to be talking about containerizing Clojure tools?
Yeah, containerizing development environments, which I'm seeing a lot of people doing lately. I think it's really, really cool.
I'm actually going to be next week at DockerCon in Barcelona, where I will be talking about containerizing developer tools. So yeah, you're not the only one.
Wonderful. All right, Francesc, thank you very much for joining me yet again today.
Very nice to talk to you, Mark.
Good. I'll speak to you later.
Bye.